Hi, welcome to Cloudberry Hollow and our final part of our three-part series to our spooky Halloween scene. So come on in and let's see what's happening. This entire video was haunted in itself. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, my friends. It's late, but here we are. We are starting with epoxy sculpt. Make sure you wear your PPE when using this. This is a wonderful compound that you want to knead until it's well blended. I use this to create a small graveyard for the tombstones that we created. What you see me doing here is pressing it into the wood and using my medium ball stylus to get the texture that I liked. And here I am with my large ball stylus, pressing it down, adding a little bit of texture. After I do this, I am going to add some puffs of grass by Army Painter and putting out throughout, and then adding some stone. It's called slate and stone. Also preparing to where I want to add my pumpkin and adding more of the epoxy sculpt to set my pumpkin in. Right there, yes. I'm going to add it all the way to the back and create a stone effect with the epoxy sculpt. And I will add the epoxy sculpt and form it into little stones all the way across. And after that, I'm going to add little pieces of magnetic grass without the magnetic portion to it. I like the color and the contrast of the grass. So there I am adding the magnetic grass. It's a little bit messy, but it works. Like it. Here we go. Again, with the epoxy sculpt, I'm adding little rocks around the cauldron. And I will add also the frozen tufts of grass around. It's not actually frozen, but you know what I'm talking about. And this will help put the cauldron into place. And I'm putting texture on it. Epoxy sculpt is great. You can use it by itself. This one that I'm using is the modeling compound. So here you see me using clear hardening epoxy, and I'm adding alcohol ink. There we go. You can make it a brighter color if you use white. And I am putting into the cauldron and letting it set overnight. I'm spilling it over on purpose to look like it's spilling onto the ground. Let there be witches. Wahaha. So here's my beautiful daughter helping me out doing the witch's head in this wonderful project. And she showed you one of the witch's heads that she already completed for me. And here we have the eyes. And she's going to show you the eye sockets, how they're going to go into the witch's head. She are going to make two. She magically got them baked in the oven for about, 5 minutes. And she popped them into those sockets. She is sculpting the nose using her soft tools. And she's making the nose there. And she'll be adding the bottom eyelids first. There we have her scraper tools. And there she is. Sculpting the bottom eyelids. And then she'll be going to the top eyelids afterwards using a variety of tools. Here we go. She's adding expression lines also to the eyes as she's going and smoothing out the eye sockets. This witch that she is creating right now is more of a mother type witch. So she is making her a little bit older. And here we go. And she's adding some cheekbones and smile lines. And she has like more of a smile on her face. And there she has the smile lines there. Smoothing her out. And we will show videos later on actually how to create faces. These are smaller faces, so they are a little bit more difficult to make. At least I think they are than they are for the larger size faces. Oh, she was missing a forehead. Did you see that? She added a forehead. So she's adding the forehead, smoothing out to how she likes it, giving her like that smile. And then she smoothed out her face with some clay softener. And she chopped off the back of her head. Oh my gosh. There you go. So here I am making the body for the witch head that she just made. Hey, hi. There you go. She was saying hello. Did you see that? I wanted her to be more almost like a grandma type, I think. So I did the base with the foil for the armature, and again I'm using ultralight, and I'm going to put the two pieces of foil together. You can use masking tape if you want to. I like the ultralight because it's easier on my hands and I can form the foil the way I like. So here I am measuring out to make sure that the head looks good for my armature the way I want it to look. Your pieces are your own, so you can make them look any which way you want. So I put the toothpicks in to make it easier for me to poke the wires through. Here I have the wires. I'm going to put two, this is 20 gauge wires for the arms, and I'm going to put a hook at the end. I find putting hooks at the end of the wires when doing armatures this way helps the armature stick better into place. I have the epoxy, not the epoxy, we used that before. You could use epoxy sculpt, it would work. I put the clay at the end, and I also put bacon bond. And here we are. Woo! Look at that. Woo! All right, I'm gonna cut the arms to length. Oh, that one needs to be cut shorter. There you go. Good. Get there. All right, now we have three. I made three, which is a little bit ambitious for this video. Okay, here we have it, and we're now putting her head into place and starting to form her neck. And I am putting in the Super Sculpey around her neck. I thought I knew what her clothes were going to be at this point, and I decided to change my mind. I'm starting to sculpt the head, neck, and what I think I want to start to be more of a cloak. So what I do is use Super Sculpey around and put enough around to ensure that I have enough clay for the actual clothing itself. And I'm just going to smooth this around and use my spoon tool to close out any seams on her. There we go. I'm right here. I'm starting to put a bit of texture into her clothing here and where her neck should be. I am also bending her arms. I want her arms on her hips, because she's gonna be... Whoa! Oh my goodness, did you see that? Gremlins. Alright, I am using snakes of clay to add folds in her clothes. This makes it a little bit easier to create that effect. I will also use my ball stylus in certain areas to create the same effect. So under here, I'm adding to show a natural effect to where she's putting her fists on her waist. You see me just making a natural blend everywhere here. And you will also see me start smoothing in her chest area because that'll all be part of her dress. And if you ever wonder where those wrinkles are going to lie, just kind of take a look at yourself in the mirror and pose yourself, or have somebody pose for you. Here I am measuring her from the shoulder down to her shins, and I want to see how long a cloak will go and fall on her. And I'm tapering the ends right there, and I will end up making it a little bit thinner because I want to make a cloak to go after her. And magically, it's done. Did you see that? That was aliens that happened. Lost footage of the alien shows. Ancient aliens, actually. Ta-da! Next time on the Discovery Channel. Here we are using Primo clay, white and gray, and we will be making her strands of curly hair. The strands of clay will be applied all the way across her head, and then we are going to pull them back into this pretty little braid and tuck them into her hood here. Okay, since we originally were going to only do one witch and all we had lost footage, we're going to do the second witch. And here we have some epic fails. We have a beautiful head here, and her head ended up cracking in half completely because she didn't have a hole in the bottom. We started to drill a hole in the bottom and it cracked. So we filled it up with bacon bond and we attached it to her armature, and it was a little bit wobbly. I'm applying her neck with Super Sculpey, and we'll see how it goes. The dress is applied in strips, and as you could see, I wanted to go fluidly. So this is going to be an extremely organic dress. It's all going in one direction and in strips again, and showing those creases. And as I'm doing the bodice of the dress, I am pushing the excess clay up to form the chest area. And at first I was thinking I wanted just one straps, and I eventually decided I wanted 2 straps. So, oh look, there's a little pumpkin. I added some little bit 3D effects with my exploring tools and bended her arms up to give her a little bit of personality, and added an arm, and then I wanted some poofy sleeves. So with a thinner piece of clay, I went ahead and sculpted the sleeves on and added her hand here, forming it onto my hand. Later on in the video, I decided I didn't like her hand, and I'll show you how I made her hand there. Adding the second arm in, again, I was just going to make her arm bare, and I didn't like it, so I added another sleeve. How can I do this? Very carefully. Happy accidents, right? Mr. Bob Ross, God bless his soul. Wasn't he telling the truth? Now we are looking on how I wanted it. First, I wanted her hair to have a solid look, and then I changed my mind. We're also going to add like long strands of hair to her. So I glued everything on her head, and I added curls. So it's long and then curly, long and then curly. And I stuck the bottom of the hair to her dress because I don't want it free flowing. And I made it shorter as it went towards her shoulders. From this angle, the sleeve looks absolutely horrible, but it looks pretty good from my view. I'll get this YouTube thing. When I'm done with the hair, you'll see me get ready to get the tube of clay. Oh, wait, what did I do to her hand? Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, dang, there goes those. There, okay, here we go. Tube of clay. I'm gonna roll a really thick snake of clay, and then I'm going to get the end of one of my tools and poke the tool on the inside of the clay. I'm going to use that tool to actually roll the clay out, and it's going to form the hat. I'm using my thumb to make it wider and wider, and as you can see, it's going to form a hat. Now from here, I didn't like the way it sat, so you use your tool again to make a little bit of a wider form. Then it's going to lay on her head for the hat. I didn't like that hand that was up. I was like, nope, don't like it. Here, we're creating another hand. And I'm gonna pop her hand right off and do another in here. And there we go. And we're just gonna mix it in. There we have our witches. The witches are going to get baked in 275 for 20 minutes. I'm adding some depth there. Just kind of fixing that. Yeah. Ta-da! All right, they're baked. We're on to the painting part. Here we're using a little bit of black, lavender, and some primary blue. I'm going to mix it, and you're going to see me mixing all of these paints together and dragging it across the foil. I'm saturating my brush in all of the paints, and what I'm doing is after I'm saturating the brush, I'm pulling the paint away from the brush, and it's the effect that I want. And here we go. It's not the color I want. Oh, there we go. Oh. And then we're going to start painting, and we're going to do this all the way across the entire figurine. And there we are, done. Here we are highlighting parts of her in gold. So it's her collar and her sleeves are highlighting in gold. And then I'm putting splashes of gold everywhere, and you can't see. And I'm getting the darker purples and darker blacks and putting it around all of the folds that we have in her. All right. There we are. Adding more onto the hat. Here we have a base color. I like how Super Sculpey is showing through, kind of transparent. And then we're going to go through it again. And I am going in one direction, going around and around in circles. So making it a little bit darker in some areas. Let's cover up all those missing areas. Adding a little bit of more black to give it some depth. And painting under the brim, can't forget that. And then we'll go forward and mix in some white with some raw sienna to make her skin tone for her lovely face and her hands. Look at that, so pretty. And I put a couple layers on because I wasn't really happy how it was coming out, but it turned out well afterwards. I now have the white paint, and I am going to start adding white to her hair. And you can see me putting it in here, and I added some to her eyebrows, and I'm going to add it into her nice long strands all over. And we're going to continue on. Every strand, white hair. I wasn't sure what color I was going to put her hair in the beginning. Next time, I think I would rather use Primo White Sculpey to further along this process. We're going to go and add some more. What you see me doing here is adding now her facial features. I'm adding a little bit of pink and white to her lips, and I'm adding some eyelashes here. And I'm going to make her eyes a nice lavender to match her outfit. And I get the right stylist so I could make her pupils. And dot in those pupils and finish off her bottom eyelashes. And here we have her holding a key. I actually broke her hand. What else can go wrong in this video? But I broke her hand, and I have her holding a key, and I found some antique lace that I thought would go really beautifully with her. And here I'm trying to arrange it. How do I want this? Do I want to wrap her hand in her hand? I didn't like it, and I ended up draping it over her. And I like the way it turned out after I draped it over her on the inside. Ta-da! Ending of that. Onto the mother. Here we go. I am using a dark, this is a heavy bodied acrylic, and it's a sap green. I'm mixing it in with a titanium white. And I'm going to color her cloak a more earthy green. I liked this color. When using a heavy bodied acrylic paint, you can also use a slow dry blending medium. Acrylic paints do dry quite quickly. So here you see the finished product. We're going to also paint the inside of her cloak. I watered it down a little bit to give a little bit of contrast, so it's a lighter green on the inside. And we're also going to go deep down on the inside. And then I've also made a nice purpley color to paint her dress. We will also highlight the creases in her dress by mixing in some bone black with the existing purple paint. And that'll give some depth into her dresses as well. And here you see me I like using a round brush when I put in the depths because it's nice. I like the way it blends in with the clothes. And then I'm going to actually put in a nice creamy color for her skin tone. I watered down the paint just a tad bit so it falls into the creases of her face. And then I have her facial features. So here, I didn't have a really good camera angle. I am putting in her eyebrows with a flat brush. I'm putting them all the way across, making them a little bit thicker. And then I will also use a harder flat brush to create the effects of eyelashes with the bone black. But first we're going to do lips apparently. Yes, lips. And this is with a primary red. I'm putting it into the inside of her mouth. And then as we go outside towards her lips, I will mix it in with some titanium white. Here we have it in the shot. I'm really good about taking stuff out of the shot. Since she's wearing a green cloak, I am also going to give her green eyes. Here you see the eyelash effects. And you really want to dry off your brush because you just want the bristles of the brush to show through. In this style, your brush is really dry. You don't want it to be a wet brush or it's just going to look like you painted on the eyelashes. It's going to be more of a solid line than the stippling effect. And there we have it. Ta-da! 2 down, and my daughter did the last witch. So 3 down and down to the final scenery. What I have here is the mushrooms, which I made off camera. And I decided I didn't like the way that my graveyard came out. There wasn't enough contrast. So we made some mud, and the mud was made with burnt ember and raw sienna, and we made a lot of it. So I decided I wanted to put it around. And I didn't like that either because it kind of looked like I smeared poop all over the place. And as I looked and I looked, I'm like, I kind of like it. And bam, there it was. I added a lot. And the great thing about acrylic paint is that you can pile it on top of each other and add this muddy effect. So that's what I did. I added the muddy effect and I added some more of my epoxy sculpt. And I love it because you know, the paint was still wet. And I put in my pumpkins and some other small little mushrooms that I made off camera. I will put in another video on how I made these lovely little mushrooms. And what else could go wrong? I broke my mushrooms. You know, just didn't know where I wanted to put that bigger guy and decided that maybe I won't use him. Here you could see me adding a little mound for my other little pumpkins. I slathered on some more mud. Gosh, I love this mud. I was having fun. It was a home run. We were almost done. It was Halloween. Can I make it? Of course not, because there was gremlins in my house. All right, so I added some more mud in between my rocks and added some grays. By now, this is a whole entire Cloudberry event. People were helping making some grays. We have a house full of artistes, and the grays were being made for me, and we had different color rocks happening, and I wanted the grays to be kind of mixed in with some of the brown muds, so it looks like the rocks are being fairly well used. So you can see some of the different tones of the grays happening. And here we go. Coloring it in. And I wasn't really careful with the mud because I wanted this to be look well used. Oh, look at that mushroom. It's still calling to me. I don't know. Are we going to add it? I don't know. Yes, we're going to add the mushroom. So I add some more epoxy sculpt to the back. I pressed in the mushroom where I wanted it. And now we're going to add more mud. Mud everywhere. Just glopping it in. Adding texture. And as I go where I wanted to add more texture, I just went ahead and put more mud there. And then I'm going to start watering down my brush because mushrooms are not clean. So I put a wash on my mushroom. Oh, too much water, too much water. You can see that I'm pulling paint from the mud on the bottom and I'm pulling it up onto the mushroom, and the mushroom has some texture in there. It's going into all the crevices on the mushroom. And I forgot to paint a rock there. I didn't like it. Here I have some PVA glue. This one is Elmer's. I am going to start adding that grass again, and I'm going to put it in between all the rocks. You don't have to use Elmer's, it could be any PVA glue. Look, magic, there it is. I'm rocking now. I'm putting ground mustard. Look how fast I'm going. Oh, and then I'm going to add some more. That's really not ground mustard, it's grass. I am putting more PVA glue on my walkway. And we're going to put some more of that grass on here. And I'm not using the electrostatic way of doing it because I want it to look more like moss. And then from there, I am going to use some frozen tuft and add some pieces of tuft in the grass. Here I am putting glue down, and I am going to use some of the little rocks that I used before, and I'm going to add a dry riverbed. This is slate and stone that I'm using. I'm going to put enough in there where I can pile it on, and you want to press in the rocks so they get all into the PVA glue. This glue will dry clear. Just make sure if you don't use Elmer's or you use a different brand that your glue will dry clear. And here we go, just like that. And some towards the back. And you would think that everything went smoothly, but it didn't. But I hope you enjoy this video when we're done. And look at, there's some little indentured marks that I made. And we're gonna add some dots of glue and add more stone. There we go. Bam. Look at that. All right. Now that that's done, we're going to put some more rocks, apparently. What am I doing? There we go. Here we're gonna go and continue on with some of the grass, and we're gonna put it in between the pumpkins to make it nice and comfortable for them, as this will be their final home. And we're gonna add it sporadically throughout my little diorama here. You can call this a diorama. And we don't have to use the entire tufts of grass. I kind of split them apart. I'm dipping them into the glue as extra security so they're sticking in. They actually have a sticky side on the back, but I like dipping them in the glue. Putting them around. There's a good contrast between the brown mud and this type of grass. There are a lot of different types of grasses with different colors. I preferred this one for this particular diorama because it was a nice cold color grass for fall. Cold, white, you know. Here I'm going to use my explorer tools and use them to put into the crevices that I created towards the beginning of the videos, and this was my intent. So I can push it down in the cracks so it looks like they are growing within the cracks of the rock. So here we go right here. And right there we are putting another pile of rocks. And put that in there so they set all in, and there we have it. With our witch here, and she's by her cauldron, and the two other witches. And thank you for watching. Please hit that subscribe and like button, and we'll see you next time here on Cloudberry Hollow.